Prabhupada ki jai, Nanda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Jai Gaura Premanande. Hare Krishna,
So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my obeisances. So we congratulate you with the holiday that we're having right now in Kazakhstan. What kind of a holiday is this one? So it's a holiday of spring coming. So yesterday was celebrated in Uzbekistan. How do you guys celebrate it? So that's the beginning of a year. That's the way we consider it. So everything is blossoming, comes into life. So we cook a special dish using wheatgrass, and then we exchange this food. We visit our friends, everyone's celebrating, having fun. So that's like the beginning of the year, because everything is coming to life. People start planting seeds, and it's also probably tightly connected with Holi, this holiday, which starts right 1 week after Gauda Purnima. Is it a beautiful holiday? Yes, it is. So sometimes we also cook a special dish that is called smalek. So you have to cook it for the whole day, for 24 hours. So people get together. You have to stir it all the time, like non-stop, so that it doesn't stick to the pants bottom. And then you give this food the next morning to everyone who wants it. Well, why do you boil it for so long? Well, you have to cook it for so long because you add some ingredients, more and more ingredients. Is it a sour or it's sweet, but we never add anything. Some like sugar, no, we don't do that. Yeah, well, that's amazing. If you take into account the medical component of it, so this dish has got a lot of healthful nutrients. It gives you a lot of power. So you cooked it yesterday. Well, we didn't do it yesterday, but we are planning on to do it. So we have some people that like to stick to this condition and then give this prasadam to everyone else. So what are we reading today? So Śrī Caitanya Caritamrta, chapter 4. You can start from the very beginning.
Jai Jai Śrī Caitanya, Jai Nityānanda,
Jai Jai Śrī Caitanya, Jai Nityānanda,
Vrinda,
Jai Advaita Ācārya, Gaura Bhakta,
Śrī Caitanya, Jai Nityānanda,
Śrī Caitanya, Jai Nityānanda,
Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura,
Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta.
Так, мы читаем начало 4 главы Adi-lila.
So today we are reading the beginning of the 4th chapter of Adi-lila, the confidential reasons for the appearance of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. Yeah. Some of the first texts. So there are almost no commentaries in the beginning. In this chapter of the epic Caitanya-caritamrta, so Krishna-dasa Kaviraja Goswami has stressed that Lord Chaitanya appeared for 3 principal purposes of his own. The first purpose was to relish the position of Śrīmati, who is the prime reciprocator of transcendental love of Sri Krishna. Lord Kṛṣṇa is the So Lord Krishna is the reservoir of transcendental loving transaction with Śrīmati Radharani. The subject of those loving transactions is the Lord himself, and Radharani is the object. Thus the subject, the Lord, wanted to relish in the position of the object, Radharani. So you see, there are two philosophical concepts. So Krishna is the subject, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but related to him, all the rest is the object. For the so there's a subject, the enjoyer, and there's an object or objects, Prakriti and all these various energies. Well, probably the elevated devotees, they already know the reason of their appearance in this world, and we also do not know the reason of our existence, and the reason of our death. No one knows it. It's all hidden. But here we read about the reason of all the reasons. So we're trying to find the answer to this question from life to life. We've been looking for this answer for so many lives. And here it says that the reason of all the reasons, according to his own reasons, according to his own nature, to another nature, to the supreme nature. So Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu is described here. It is described here who he is. The second reason for his appearance was to understand the transcendental mellow of himself. Lord Krishna is all sweetness. Just to experience it. To experience the love of Radharani, her affection, and to feel this sweetness, to go through it. So, as Radharani's attraction for Krishna is sublime, and to experience that attraction and understand the transcendental sweetness of himself, he accepted the mentality of Radharani. So Radharani is the supreme object of enjoyment, the energy itself. So she perfectly knows and feels this subtle nature of Krishna as no one else can. If to compare it this way. So in material world, how do people feel God? Well, it's kind of gross. They even feel some fear coming from God because he's so powerful. If you believe in the powerful God, all-powerful God, he's been very strict, his strict laws. So it's very gross understanding of God. Sometimes people even call him severe. So in material world, people are afraid of this definition, and some people are even afraid of religion, because a lot of different things happen in the religious world under the flag of God, because the life is full of sufferings. So what is love under such material conditions? If you say that God is loving, so how does he love? It turns out he loves us a little bit severely, because it's all based on our intelligence and laws. But in the spiritual world, there are no such laws. There are no such strict rules. It's all behind the instructions and scriptures. Here we have to follow the scriptures, but Krishna is beyond all these instructions and rules. He's not a severe chief or creator or judge. He's a beloved one. Radharani sees him as her beloved one. He is the supreme subject for her, the one who is supposed to enjoy. He's supposed to enjoy. So whom do we look at in this world and we are convinced that he's supposed to be enjoying this life? Well, if you pay me, we say, right? I will give you what you need, and you will enjoy, but first you have to pay. But if you take this example with a seller of fruit, so she was selling fruit. She was supposed to sell this fruit because this is her salary. You know, selling in the material world is an essential thing because how else are we supposed to live? So back then, Krishna was at the age of when he wasn't even confidently walking. He was so little. So she would pass by him almost every day, just like we see in Vrindavana, you know, all these sellers, they just scream it out like fruit, fruit, who needs, who wants fruit. So this saleswoman, she would pass by Krishna, and Krishna knew her. He knew her previous incarnations. Well, because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knows everything. Despite his young and gentle age, he's God. He's all-knowing God. God that controls all material worlds and so on. But in this Lila, he opens up totally differently. And as the Supreme Controller, he went to buy some fruit. He wasn't walking confidently because he was so little. So he took some wheat in order to exchange. He took some wheat into his really tiny palms. And while going there, he had spilled a lot of wheat. All that he has taken with him was really funny because he was acting as a normal kid. But what is so unusual about it? The saleswoman, she saw him and she has recalled. She has recalled that thanks to her austerities from her previous lives, thanks to her heart, where this bhakti was dormant, the right time has come and Krishna has appeared before her, bringing some wheat. In such a gentle age, so he was looking in her eyes, smiling, reaching out to her with his hands. He came to her to buy some fruit. So she has recalled instantly everything, all her emotions, ecstasy. She hasn't even thought anything. It has happened. It's happened totally spontaneously. No prejudices, no nothing. She was from a lower caste. So looking at Krishna, she started taking everything out and putting it into Krishna's hands. She was literally pouring Krishna with fruits that she had until the whole bucket was empty. Krishna, of course, was very satisfied. So he was coming back with all this fruit. And the saleswoman, she has forgotten about even selling things. So that's the reason of his appearance. Who is God then? Of course, he emanates through rules and instructions, of course, but in this world we know him as Madhurya. It's different kinds of Madhuryas. It's just the sweetness, that's the Radharani knows him. This is the most gentle living entity, the most loving living being that does not forget anyone ever. He can also forget people's sins. He just steals the sins and digests them. So this saleswoman, she was so much enchanted by Krishna. So she said to him, she asked him, "Dear Gopal, I have just I have something to ask you. It's something that you could pay me with. Please have a seat on my laps."
Посмотри мне в глаза и скажи,
Look into my eyes and say, Mama.
Кришна так и сделал.
So that's what Krishna did.
Итак, эта торговка достигла совершенства жизни.
So this saleswoman, she has reached the perfection of life
Торговала
by this
фруктами,
way. You see, she was just selling fruit.
дала, когда же Кришна придет к ней.
All her life, she had been asking for Krishna. She'd been calling for Krishna for so many lives.
Итак, причина явления.
So the reason of appearance.
У каждого живого существа есть другая причина наслаждаться в этом мире господствует.
Every living being has another reason to enjoy this world. That's why we have so many conceptions of Lord. He's the real Lord. He's the real enjoyer. Everything belongs to Him. All the sacrifices, everyone that has seen Him gives Him everything. Lord Chaitanya has come here to give this example of how to surrender to Krishna because He's a real devotee. He acts as a devotee in the mood of Srimati Radharani. What kind of a supreme gift can we have? There's no bigger gift that Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu has given us. So the third reason that Lord Chaitanya appeared was to enjoy the bliss tasted by Radharani, that Radharani enjoys. The Lord thought that undoubtedly Radharani enjoyed his company and he enjoyed the company of Radharani, but the exchange of transcendental mellow between the spiritual couple was more pleasing to Srimati Radharani than to Krishna. So Radharani felt more transcendental pleasure in the company of Krishna that he could understand without taking her position. So Krishna is not able to that because Krishna and Radharani take different positions. So Krishna is the transcendental male and Radharani is the transcendental female. Therefore, to know the transcendental pleasure of loving Krishna, Lord Kṛṣṇa himself appeared as Lord Chaitanya, accepting the emotions and bodily luster of Srimati Radharani. Caitanya Prabhu, can you please finish reading this passage? Of course. So, Lord Chaitanya appeared in order to fulfill these confidential desires and also to preach the special significance of chanting Hare Krishna. And to answer the call of Advaita Prabhu. But these were secondary reasons of his appearance. So two reasons are mentioned here. The external ones, to give the holy name, and the ask of Advaita Ācārya. So Sri Svarupa Damodara Goswami was the principal figure among Lord Chaitanya's confidential devotees. The records of his diary have revealed these confidential purposes of the Lord. These revelations have been confirmed by the statements of Srila Rupa Goswami in his various prayers and poems. This chapter also specifically describes the difference between lust and love. The transactions of Krishna and Radha are completely different from material lust. Therefore, the author has very clearly distinguished between them. Text first. But the mercy of Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu, even a foolish child can't fully describe the real nature of Lord Kṛṣṇa, the enjoyer of the pastimes of Vraja, according to the vision of the revealed scriptures. You see, even a foolish child, it's not an exaggeration. Everything that concerns Lord Caitanya, he gives you this love to God. This is the supreme energy that Kṛṣṇa himself enjoys. That's why everything opens up under the influence of bhakti. You know well the person that can enjoy you. You understand everything instantly. Everything becomes very simple. Bhakti is something that the Lord himself enjoys. If we practice bhakti yoga, the devotional service, we start understanding Kṛṣṇa. In Bhagavad Gita, he says that I'm dissipating all this ignorance from inside of your heart. Bhakti is enough, but since it happens really rarely, the pure bhakti, it happens not often. We need some auxiliary processes, but they're not the reasons of bhakti. Quite the opposite. Bhakti is the reason. But there may be some auxiliary methods, like different kinds of yoga. They're also used, of course, but just for the purpose of reaching bhakti. When a person reaches bhakti, you don't need to do any other processes. Kṛṣṇa says, I'm dissipating all these forms of ignorance from the inside of your heart. It takes intelligence to do that, and then the person goes straight to the Lord. So the purport, one can ascertain the meaning of this Sanskrit shloka only when one is endowed with the causeless mercy of Lord Caitanya. Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa, being the absolute personality of Godhead, cannot be exposed to the mundane instruments of vision. He reserves the right not to be exposed by the intellectual feats of non-devotees. Notwithstanding this truth, even a small child can easily understand Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa and his transcendental pastimes in the land of Vrindavana by the grace of Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu. So to endow a godless person with prema is considered to be an offense. Even to talk about these topics is forbidden. It's considered to be the 9th offense of the holy name. See, he had broken up all these locks. So this love to God is hidden by the 9 locks, it said. Yeah, there are a lot of things that are forbidden. You cannot approach Lord Caitanya so easily. So there are some teachings that even deny the form of God. So this is way too sacred. So no one can see it, you cannot spread it, but Lord Caitanya had broken all these locks, all the forbidden things. All glory to Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu, all glory to Lord Nityānanda, all glory to Śrī Advaita Ācārya, and all glory to all the devotees of Lord Caitanya. So text number 3, I have described the meaning of the 4th verse. Now, O devotees, kindly hear the explanation of the 5th verse. So there's no purport because we are reading the 3rd text, but it says about another chapter. So now Text 4 of the 4th chapter. Just to explain the original verse, I shall first suggest its meaning. So text 5. I have given the essential meaning of the 4th verse. This incarnation of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu descends to propagate the chanting of the holy name and spread love of God. Text number 6. Although this is true, this is but the external reason for the Lord's incarnation. Please hear one other reason, the confidential reason for the Lord's appearance. You see, we do the same, but externally. We chant holy name, we spread it, we spread the holy name. So how do we spread the holy name? The question arises, probably with the help of the holy name itself. Holy name chanting gives us this enthusiasm and desire to spread it. It happens naturally. So we are given this intelligence. It awakens spontaneously and we go into God unconsciously. We do not even know that this path takes us to Lord. We just enjoy doing it. Everyone that had tasted prasadam wishes to spread the knowledge. And if this chanting is true, everyone wants to do it because it awakens this bhakti. Bhakti means the desire to spread this love, this grace, this mercy. It's a love exchange. If there's love, there will be love exchange. This is the nature of bhakti. So by just chanting holy name, we automatically want to do something for Krishna. We don't even know sometimes what is it that we need to do. That's why we ask our spiritual master, our instructors, and we start doing it enthusiastically. We do this bhava, this mood, and we feel this ecstasy, this love for God. We start liking Krishna, His name, devotees. We want to go to Vrindavana to know everything in detail. So this process starts automatically. So this is what Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu used to do. But where does this process take you to? It takes you directly to Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu. Because who is he? Who is Lord Caitanya? So this is Radha and Krishna in one person. Of course, from the material point of view, it's not possible, but from the spiritual one, it is totally possible. The unification of two people. There's a form of communication. So the physical unification happens between spouses, and then the physical bodies, they get connected, so they have this samskara of unification. And in these, they have two different egos. But here, it's the opposite. One ego, but two bodies. Radha and Krishna. This is one ego in two forms. That's why Lord Caitanya, he has appeared in one form. One ego in two forms, but he has come down here in one form. Yeah, it's a bit confusing, right? You don't have to think about it, just accept it. So we cannot experiment here to analyze these things. Here we just try to get into this using Hare Krishna mantra with our internal vision. You don't have to stress your analytical mind too much. It won't help you. It is beyond our understanding. It is beyond our mind. But the fact is fact. Lord Caitanya, he has been here. We have this description. So we use Svarupa Damodar's diaries, that was the closest secretary of Lord Caitanya. So he had put down all the details that no one else had seen. So using these diaries, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, he writes Chaitanya Caritamrta to recover, to the extent that is possible, the autobiography of Lord Chaitanya that was here a little bit more than 500 years ago. So historically it's not so long ago, so we still have all these facts, historical facts. The scriptures proclaim that Lord Kṛṣṇa previously descended to take away the burden of the earth. 5,000 years ago, he came down here to help our earth. So that was his mission. But to take away this burden, however, is not the work of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the maintainer. Lord Vishnu is the one who protects the universe. See, this detail is quite interesting. So this is the function of Vishnu, not the initial form of Krishna. So how does he take away the burden of earth? How is he supposed to do that? He's dancing with gopis, stealing butter, playing with the cowherd boys. He's not supposed to do anything. He's the enjoyer. And all his surrounding exists for him to enjoy, because everything is so passionate to satisfy his senses. He's the beloved Supreme Lord in there. And everything else is forgotten by everybody. But here he has come down to take away the burden of earth. Although Vishnu was supposed to do that, this is Lord Krishna's expansion. So he was supposed then to come in the form of Vishnu. But the time to lift the burden of the world mixed with the time for Lord Krishna's incarnation. So you see, it's quite remarkable, a coincidence. So usually this burden is taken away by Vishnu, one of his avatars, like Varaha, Kurma avatar, Matsya avatar. They did all these things. These are all the expansions of Vishnu. But here we have a coincidence, because it was the time for Krishna to come down to earth. So Bhumi started praying to Lord Brahma. He went to the milky ocean's shore. He started praying to Vishnu. Vishnu said he would come, but he didn't say in what form he would. So this was Krishna's form, to everybody's surprise. So as we know from Bhagavad Gita, Lord appears at particular intervals to adjust a time-worn spiritual culture. Lord Sri Krishna appeared at the end of Dvapara Yuga to regenerate the spiritual culture of human society and also to manifest his transcendental pastimes. Vishnu is the authorized Lord who maintains the created cosmos, and he is also the principal deity who makes adjustments when there is improper administration in the cosmic creation. But Sri Krishna, being the primeval Lord, appears not in order to make such administrative adjustments, but only to exhibit his transcendental pastimes and thus attract the fallen souls back home, back to Godhead. However, the time for administrative rectification and the time for Lord Sri Krishna's appearance coincided at the end of the last Dvapara Yuga. Therefore, when Sri Krishna appeared, Vishnu, the Lord of maintenance, merged with him, because all the plenary portions and parts of the absolute personality of Godhead merged with him during his appearance. So Krishna has come down here together with Vishnu in one face, in one personality. So remember, Brahma has arranged all the things. He was really doubting. He was watching Krishna. he was watching this cowherd boy, and he was really doubting. He had a lot of doubts. In other words, he wanted to see his divine manifestation, and what he saw was just a little boy playing with cowherd boys. So he had this lila just to see the power, the potency, not the sweetness, but the potency. He didn't see any potency, little Krishna. So he wasn't controlling the universe, he wasn't instructing demigods. He was just eating food, jumping with frogs, copying peacocks, playing with his friends, hugging his mother Yashoda. That's why Brahma, he was chasing different purposes. He thought that if God does not manifest his potency, no one will believe him. And also to dissipate Brahma's doubts. So he had stolen all these cowherd boys and the calves. So if there's an object and a subject, we need to remove one of them. If this is the Supreme Personality of God, he's supposed to enjoy even without the subject, because he's self-sufficient. So Brahma had taken away calves and cowherd boys, so Krishna has replaced them with the expansions of Vishnu. Limitless, countless. There were so many of them that you couldn't even count all of them. So he had replaced them and continued playing the same games. So he duplicated the same forms of cowherd boys and calves, the personalities, the paces, the features, with the expansions of Vishnu. No one has even noticed anything, any change. No mothers, no cows. Even Brahma, he hasn't noticed anything for the whole year. But then it has come to the surface. So Krishna has shown Brahma not just one Vishnu, because Brahma knows just one Vishnu, Garbhoda Kashaya Vishnu. So here he saw multiple and countless forms of Vishnu that serve Krishna. So then Brahma thought to himself, who is this? If this Gopal just eats prasaram, communicating with his friends, and all these multiple forms of Vishnu serve him, so this must be him, and at the same time he's different. So then he thought to himself, you must be Narayana himself. But Krishna said, I'm not Narayana. I'm just the son of Maharaj Nanda and Mother Yashoda. I'm just a cowherd boy. But Brahma said, no, now I understand. You're not going to confuse me now. I'm just seeing your real position. So you see, this topic is quite interesting. Krishna comes down here to manifest his games to attract devotees. We are already ready for that. Someone will just understand that Krishna is just the great personality. Someone will understand that the super soul is reflected in him. But the real devotees, they will understand all these lilas, games, and they will come back to Godhead. Devotees in the material world, they cannot go back to Godhead. Many of us belong to this category. Even though we are devotees, we still live in the material world. And when we face Krishna's games, we have this passion to go back to Godhead. Otherwise, we can be very religious and spiritual in the material world. But Krishna comes down here to attract all devotees to him. He has told that to Arjuna. So surrender to me and leave all the religions behind. I'm taking full responsibility for you. So Vishnu comes down here to to recover all the principles of religion, to protect the devotees, and deliver this world from the demons. So that's quite an interesting topic that we are having today. When the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead descends, all other incarnations of the Lord meet together with Him. See, all His incarnations, they all come down here together. Lord Narayana, the four primary expansions, Vasudeva, Sankarsana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, Matsya and the other Lila incarnations, the Yuga avatars, the Manvatara incarnations, and as many other incarnations as there are, all descend in the body of Lord Kṛṣṇa, in just one body. In this way, the complete Supreme Godhead, Lord Kṛṣṇa Himself, appears. So that's when we're going to stop today at this inexplainable phenomenon, this supernatural phenomenon. Of course, we theoretically can understand it, because we're quite prepared philosophically to accept what is written here, just to accept it. Because philosophically we are probably ready for that, but there's not enough philosophy. Śrī Caitanya Caritamrta will give you a feeling of it. If you go through these texts in detail, you will understand what's written here. That's the point of Lord Chaitanya's appearance, just to give us this taste, this sense, to feel it directly, to elevate above the philosophical thought. A thought gives it the direction, so we can achieve it. We can live in that sphere, in that field. So, dear devotees, we have touched upon this topic, the beginning of the 4th chapter of Adi-lila. So we've read 12 texts today. So please, if you have anything to add, to express your point of view, some questions. So, Victor, please make an announcement, and then I will add something. So, dear devotees that are watching us right now on YouTube, send your questions to us and we'll try to dedicate some time to answer your questions. Those who are in Zoom right now, raise your hands and we will ask you to talk. So thank you, Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu. So today we've touched upon this Lila. When Brahma was trying to steal the cowherd boys, friends of Krishna, so while he was trying to hide them away in a cave, so then he started hesitating. He came back to the place that he was initially. The whole year has passed by. So Krishna's answering to all these internal desires of the inhabitants of Vrindavana. He has given them all this bliss, all this mercy. Even Brahma didn't know about that for the whole year. So I wanted to ask you something. When Brahma came back there, he saw cowherd boys sitting at the same place, the way it was in the beginning. So he saw this four-handed form, cowherd boys, they stayed at the same time. So Krishna had taken his initial form. So he was looking as Krishna to the inhabitants of Vrindavana. So Brahma didn't know that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of God back then. But wait, has Krishna manifested his four-handed form? I guess he hasn't. So Brahma saw it. No, Krishna stayed in his two-handed form. So that's exactly why he said to Brahma, why do you think I'm Narayana? I'm just a cowherd boy. I'm the son of Maharaj Nandana. But the calves and the cowherd boys, they have manifested as Vishnu's servant to Krishna. So Krishna has stayed in his initial form, so that's why Brahma was so impressed. But the fact that all the worlds, all the atoms, all the Vishnus, they are serving to this Krishna, to this little boy. So that's why Brahma said, you are the true Narayana. But Krishna said, no, 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 I'm just a regular boy, a cowherd boy. And also it is said that our Brahma, the one that has accepted the darshan of Krishna, so he has compiled Brahma Samhita, this prayer. It seems like that before this he was Vishnu Bhakta, but then having accepted the darshan of Lord Kṛṣṇa, he has become the real devotee. And he has headed our Sampradaya. Yeah, so this is our blood Brahman. This is our Sampradaya. The first spiritual master. And there's one more thing. If you allow, I'd like to come back to these three sacred reasons and try to understand them more clearly, to understand these three reasons and to understand the difference between them. So trying to understand them. So very often our possibilities are restricted. And as we say, we break our spears trying to understand these reasons. So it turns out, logically thinking, that if we start from the end, from the third reason, so this is the desire to understand the bliss of Radha, that she feels being close to Krishna. Krishna is very happy when he's close to Radharani, but Śrīmati Radharani, she feels it like 1,000,000 times more actively, deeper. So Krishna wonders, how is that even possible? So that means that there's something inside of me that becomes the catalyzer of this bliss, that 1,000,000 times more potent. That's his beauty. And the second reason is to comprehend my beauty through the eyes of Śrīmati Radharani. I just want to take a look at what is it that I have that Śrīmati Radharani feels the such a bliss. And the first reason, the way it is described here, Krishna thinks that I'm the enjoyer, I'm the supreme one, the initial one. But she is Ashraya, she's the object. That's why I cannot comprehend it until we exchange the roles, until I take up her role, until I steal her mood. So that's the way I understood it. Oh yeah, everything is correct, you got it right. There's one tendency behind it, to understand who you are, to realize who you are. So this tendency gives birth to his new manifestations. But Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu is the manifestation that tries to exchange the roles. To understand himself, he wants to take up the position of Radharani, to take a look at himself from a side. If you're an orange, you cannot understand what it tastes like, you have to become someone else to understand what it tastes like. So that's why we have this lila here. Krishna is exchanging the role with Radharani, just to take a look at himself from the point of view of Radharani, just to feel this sweetness that Radharani is enjoying. And the third reason, he can see that she is enjoying him even more. And he also wants to feel this bliss. He also wants to know the way she feels it. She enjoys it. So we can unify all these reasons in just one reason. But here we have a lot of details. So probably our intelligence tells us that this is just one reason, but Caitanya-caritamrta is a very subtle philosophy. So that's why there are three of the reasons that we have. So these are three internal reasons and one external to spread the movement of Sankirtanam. So it turns out that there are three external reasons as well. From the previous chapter, we can extract three reasons. The first one, so that's the time for Yuga Dharma that has come to give the holy name. Then Advaita Ācārya, the reason that has summoned him. And the third one is desire of the Lord Chaitanya to give not just prema to people, but Vraja prema. That's why he has taken up this holy name and mixed it up with Vraja prema and spread it all over the world. And coming back to the internal reasons, I'd like to point out one detail. So Krishna remains in his initial position eternally. So he never changes these exchanges, these roles with Srimati Radharani. So he's always the male. So in Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu, he's got two manifestations, both Krishna and Radharani, in the same personality. Because Krishna wants to comprehend what it's like to be himself. In some lilas, in Vraja Bhumi, they do exchange some roles, which is also the same topic. So Krishna wants to feel this love of Radharani, and he does it in different ways. Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu, his manifestation, his form. But sometimes Krishna, without changing his form, he changes the color to the Radharani's color. So there's a story of some childish lilas. When Yashoda, he kind of gave an engagement to Radharani and Krishna. So she took this girl, she put her on her lap because she was admiring her. She took some turmeric and she rubbed it in Radharani's palms, and she said, "Now you guys are engaged." And then when Radharani came out with these yellow palms, her friends just surrounded her and asked her, like, "Why did you let it happen? Do you understand that if you get married, all the games will finish? You will be just an ordinary wife. He will be just an ordinary husband. So until someone else sees it except Yashoda, wash this away, all this turmeric." So Radharani thinks this moment, what's bad about being engaged to Krishna, being his wife? So she's washing away this turmeric off her hands, and at this time this lake starts shining in such an amazing way that Radharani's friends, they start saying that, "Come on, Radharani, what are you doing? You see the way this lake is shining because you're giving all this love away, and now everyone will find out what had happened. So let's just run away from here. But the lake is still shining. The next day, Krishna comes there as a cowherd boy. He's looking in this lake, thinking to himself, what had happened? I visit this place so often, and it had never shined before this way. So he's approaching this lake, he touches this lake, so he gets such a shock that he started screaming, Vishnu, Vishnu, Vishnu. He started asking for protection from God, and then he felt this prema from Radharani. He started entering this lake with his full head, so he has merged there for several hours. Only his peacock feather was sticking out a little bit of the lake. So all the inhabitants of Vrindavana, they all got together. They thought to himself that he would never come out of there. Everyone started praying for him to come out. So when he came out, he was all in golden color. He was pierced by the love of Radharani. So this form exists in the spiritual world, the form of Lord Chaitanya on Goloka Vrindavana, the eternal form of Krishna. So this is kind of a united form, two in one. So there's a question, Andre. So Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances, Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu, and all the devotees. So now we've talked about this lilas. So when we go back to the spiritual world, so is it just our desire, or Krishna tells us to do it deep in our heart? Or is it just a taste that we start getting and then we want to go back to Krishna? Thank you very much. So after Krishna leaves this planet, having manifested all his games with devotees, all the devotees that stay in this world, they die because of the separation. That's how they go back to him. And Lord Chaitanya, he has manifested this mood, the mood of separation, and he has given this mood to us. We have only one destiny, to die because of the separation with Krishna. This means that all devotees Thank you. More questions, please. If there are no more questions. So why is there a division to subject and object if Krishna just one solid? So why doesn't he understand himself as a solid thing? You know, it happens simultaneously. He both understands himself and he doesn't. It's a dynamically expanding form. He's static and dynamic at the same time. Static is the ocean and dynamic, going out of the shores. You're correct. If he's one solid whole, this wholeness, so this variety is simultaneous, that's why we cannot comprehend it. That's why this question arises to us. So from the point of view of rasa, you can understand this variety, but not from the point of view of material separation. For example, material separation means that you lose your individuality. So Prabhupada gives us this example. A table, you take it apart and the table stops existing. It loses its function. So based on this, the Western thinkers, they say that God is dead because when he had emanated all this creation, he stopped existing because he fell apart. So if you want him to exist, you have to assemble all these things back. That's why they say he doesn't exist. So it means simultaneously uniform and simultaneously separate. Caitanya Prabhu, you want to add something? So if wholeness is whole, how can it be divided into subject and object? So this is one soul but two bodies. There is no division. This wholeness, it remains. Incomprehensible wholeness and division at the same time. Ananda Vrindavani wanted to say something. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, accept my obeisances. So this question is formulated from the point of view of cheat. The main thing is to achieve God, to comprehend God. And that would mean that God would be imperfect if he could not comprehend himself, could not realize himself, could not understand who. But he is something that amazes us. So from this standpoint of view, if Krishna hadn't had this possibility to amaze us all the time and to surprise us, he would have stopped existing. So logically this question is correct, but transcendentally it's not. So probably this question is asked from the point of view of tattva. But from the point of view of rasa, it's different. More questions, please? So our material, so this is just the plot of our mind. So why are we given these sufferings? The soul does not suffer. The sufferings are felt only by the means of illusion. In the spiritual world, there are no sufferings. In the spiritual world, they just don't exist. Why? Because there are no limits. There are no limits for enjoyment, for communication, for servitude. In the material world, there are some limits, boundaries of the false ego. So these boundaries, they created in an illusory way. So we feel material sufferings, but with help of the illusion. So one day, when we were visiting Parikrama, it was very hot, and Vrindavan was just scorching. So we went there were hundreds of devotees in there. So that means that the dust, especially externally. So when you fall into this dust, it wasn't so bad, but externally it was very hot, and there were a lot of thorns along the way. This very challenging experience, and we needed to go for 22 kilometers. So at some point we felt that it was too difficult, and then one of the spiritual masters told us, just chant the holy name, repeat the holy name, and all these sufferings, they will transform into a bliss. All these limits, they will go away. Then I thought to myself, that's an interesting experience, maybe I should give it a try. And indeed, partially we have felt it. we've experienced it. It turns out that it's just the boundaries of our perception. For example, I don't understand something and that's why I suffer. These are the boundaries. And there's a limit to what I can experience with my skin, of my abilities. And then if someone breaks my personal space, I also suffer. In the spiritual world, there is no ahankara. If we develop Krishna's consciousness, all these bodily sufferings, they may still exist, this pain and bliss, but we stop suffering. We do not memorize it as the suffering. We don't have this trauma in our heart. For example, when Christ was hanging on the cross, he was in real pain, he was screaming. But Prabhupada said a very interesting phrase. Jesus Christ, he was praying for the people killing him. It's not that our body becomes senseless, like it doesn't feel the sense. No, but it just transforms. Yeah. So, Chaitanya Prabhu, do you have a question? Okay, so then let's just discussing this topic, and I think Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu, you have given us a very thorough explanation. I would just add a little bit. The materialist basically because he identifies himself. So the main source, even though if he doesn't feel a lot of discomfort or some pain, there is tribulations, but mind, but a devotee, he can feel this pain, full of all these pains, physical pain, because it's under the influence of time, but the devotees that elevate the Krishna's consciousness, they suffer differently. Yes, a spiritual master can go through some pain, a Vaishnava can go through some pain and feel some consequences, but it doesn't suffer. Topic? Because he does not identify himself with his mind. So Jesus, he was screaming out of pain, but he wasn't suffering. It's not like yogis demonstrating their mystical skills. No, he was going through pain, of course, especially the pain of compassion. Especially when Vaishnavas, they feel this pain. That's why it's compassion and the pain of separation. Chaitanya Prabhu, there's a question following this topic as well from the chat. Soul does not feel all these sufferings. Why do we call it, why do we have this phrase called soul sufferings? The terminology confusion. Atma does not suffer. It has a compassion. So we call it, that we call the soul sufferings, it's actually just an emotional sufferings. It's a misconception that we have. It's just emotional overload that influences our heart and psychological system and gets us off balance. If you're talking about spiritual sufferings, they do not harm our functions. They actually clarifies everything. The separation with Krishna is this spiritual suffering, and there's no trauma in there, there's no injury. This is just in another form of bliss. That's why it's just a confusion in terminology. So it's just a subtle mind that suffers. The soul is different. So there's an anecdote that I could tell you about it. So when I heard this anecdote for the first time, I was trying to connect it with you. So it wasn't you. So it happened in the early 90s in St. Petersburg. So I thought to myself that it might have been you. So there's a big lecture, a lot of people. The lecturer is talking about how good it is to be patient, the qualities of him being very humble, compassionate, and so on. So he gave a great lecture, and then in the end, the auditorium has had some questions. So there's a man who raised his hand. He said, "Thank you so much for your lecture. You told us all about this benefit day. So tell me, how do I react if someone spits in my soul?" So then this lecturer, he said, "Oh, you do not know Bhagavad Gita. I think you have to read Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that it's not even possible to moisturize your soul." That's a great argument. As far as I understand it, this was Rahini Sutta Prabhu. So he used to communicate with people in such a great way. It was as simple as everything. That's why he used to spread so many books. Yeah, you cannot moisturize soul either by water or by just the spit, by saliva. It's impossible. So that means that when someone spits into your soul, as we say, it's really painful, like to humiliate a person, to offend a person, to ignore him, to ignore his values. It's like a deep injury. Usually it happens with the help of words. The words are even more powerful than a weapon. The verbal sufferings. So Hare Krishna, Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu, the devotees. I've heard that after Lord Chaitanya appeared, there's a lot of sahajiya. And what the danger is, I don't quite understand. So, sahajiya means simplification, literally, about Krishna's lilas. Doesn't matter if it's just the philosophy. Sahajiya can be the philosophical or any other kind. If we hear about Krishna's, imitate them on the material level. So if there are some gopis, I dress up like a gopi, and I think that this is my spiritual body. So I dress up like gopi, I put on a sari, some bracelets, decorations, and I feel gopi, trying to understand this rasa. This is called sahajiya. So with the help of material manipulations, it is achieved. And, well, you can enter this role to feel what it's like to be gopi. So this is the method of sahajiya. But the first thing that a person has to understand, following this path, you have to differentiate body from a soul. That's when he will start understanding this rasa. To understand these things correctly, it does not relate to either a body or a mind. So there's also sahajiya, the philosophical sahajiya. We read Bhagavad Gita, then we take away the main verse out of it, and we forget all the rest of them, and we recite only one shloka, for example. So this is a philosophical sahajiya. A person hasn't received this wide view, wide vision, understanding. He is taking only, say, 2 verses out of the Holy Scripture, and he's been citing them. But you need to read more, you need to understand more. Relationships and your pastimes, actions, it has to be volumetric, otherwise it'll be sahaji as well. Thank you.
Бывает такое с нашим интернетом. То есть, если мы говорим о Дакше, значит, мы приходим к примеру Дакши.
So if we are talking about Daksha, we come to an example of Daksha. We see that there are some examples of such examples in this material world. What happens to this person on this level of Krishna's consciousness? He will be committing offenses. But he will be envying the more elevated devotees. He will criticize the ones breaking some instructions. So he's following everything, he's devoted, he's daksha, but it's leading to conflicts. But the Supreme Krishna's consciousness, it delivers you from criticizing others, from committing offenses. Gopis, they have this Supreme Krishna's consciousness, and Radharani, and all the living beings, this way or another, they are in Krishna's consciousness, because they possess this consciousness, any form of life. It is all explained. So explained like the number of plants, fish, and other living entities. So chewing with the jaws, 4-legged, 2-legged, everything is described, the way they behave, their nature, their purpose. Everything is the Krishna's consciousness. This is all the Krishna's energy. Then it is said that a person is divided into 2 categories, thinking and not thinking. So it's better to be a thinking person, of course. Then it's better when you have some faith. When you think and at the same time you have some faith, and you become better and better. So this is all the field of Krishna's consciousness, inside this material world and beyond this. So I've just started answering this question. If you want, you can add something. Giridhari Prabhu, I wanted to ask if you have some questions. If it's connected with the previous question. Another Vrindavani? You have some comments? So I wanted to confirm Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu. I just wanted to give 2 examples. So there's a story of Gop Kumar when he enters Brahma Jyoti and reaches Vaikuntha's gates. The guardians, they meet him there. And he has already seen the God face to face. And he had this really great desire to communicate with God. But anyway, when he faced these guardians, they told him that even that one that's got his very pure heart, and even if you come here, you have no right to go to Vaikuntha until you hear Śrīmad Bhagavatam, and they send them back to earth to hear Śrīmad Bhagavatam. So just like it's been said today, a person may be a devotee, may be very pure, but anyway, he has to receive this supreme understanding of love. Until this, he cannot go back to Lord. So that's why this Kumar was sent back to earth, to hear this knowledge, to have this taste. And there's another example. So one of us are already devotees, and we are in this world, and I wanted to say that there are so many living entities, probably in even different traditions, and only few of them have the understanding of God. So they have like a definite tactics of chanting God's names. Some of them have even managed to see Krishna face to face, and all of them, they would just come down, they would just come back. Why? Because they were so shocked and surprised and amazed. They just didn't have this emotion of love. They felt this understanding that God is great. If you take a look at other traditions, they also have this concept of God being great. Like the Solomon's songs. So it is said that there's spiritual world, there's the kingdom of God, but I think there are no many people that understand what it means. But Śrīmad Bhagavatam, it gives you the understanding of all these levels, of all these relationships, rasas. Not the beauty of God itself, but the rasa that attracts us all. So that's why when we are listening to Śrīmad Bhagavatam, only then we can have this really strong desire. Not just go and look at Lord, but to stay there forever, never go back again. Thank you. So as one of the Brahma's sons, helping him to increase the population of this planet. So he was worshipping Vishnu. He had this enough bhakti to get the darshan of God. And when it happened, he was very happy and satisfied. He was given darshan, but this bhakti that has given him, that has allowed him to see God, it was enough to feel more elevated forms of relationships. And I might be mistaken, but I've heard it from the Narayani's Maharaja Narayani. They teaches Śrīmad Bhagavatam. So Dakshu is considered to be a devotee that does devotional service, but with the mixture of the mode of ignorance. So that's why he probably started being a little bit ominous to Vishnu, I'm sorry. So remember this Daksha, he was behead of a goat instead. You see, he was committing this devotional service, but with the mode of ignorance, with the mixture of a mode of ignorance. So God says that to what extent you surrender to me. So maybe there's something else. So Devakinandana wanted to add something. So I read in Jiva Goswami's commentaries, he says that Daksha, he was emanating prema when he was receiving darshan. So he's explaining two kinds of prema. One was the example of Narada Muni. When he got this prema, so the god disappeared just to deepen his relationships. But the sixth canto explains the heroes that had used God's darshan and they haven't used this mercy. So the lesson is that sometimes we can have this mercy but never use it. So just like Indra, he has received this darshan of God, and he's so there's another example. So the first example of Daksha, he could have asked for prema, but he didn't use that. That's why this prema passed by very fast. He received something by the mercy of God, but he hasn't asked for that. Indra, he got this mercy later, but Daksha, he hasn't received it yet, because in the previous life he has offended Shiva. And the second lesson is that when you offend Vaishnavas, you can take them with you even to your next life. So this way, dear devotees, if you examine Śrīmad Bhagavatam, whole Śrīmad Bhagavatam, not just the 10th canto, but the whole Śrīmad Bhagavatam, you can see the destinies, the fates of people. It is what described in Puranas. So if you take a look at Daksha, there are a lot of Dakshas, Manans and Indras as well, Chantraketus, the image of them, Vitrasura and Prahlada Maharaj and Hiranyakashipus, the little ones. We'll have these images. All of them are described and all their destinies are described as well. So it's all clear to us. Now we have to just learn to differentiate these things just to satisfy Krishna. So I think it's a very thorough conclusion. So now Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu, could we also answer a couple of more questions? Yeah, of course, let's do it. So Giri Hari Prabhu, turn your mic on. Can you hear me now? So we have these three reasons. I've taken a look at the way they're called in Bengali. Ananda and Premananda, the bliss that Radharani feels, and Madhurya, the sweetness, the beauty of Krishna. So Anandavi, the bliss that Radharani feels, or a devotee feels, from the love to God. So first goes the love and then the bliss. But what concerns the beauty of the Lord, so a devotee sees the Lord and he falls in love with Him. You see the object, you have this attachment, some emotions then and happiness. So the consequence is like this. So we see Lord, we see His beauty and sweetness, and then we will be feeling this happiness. Is this the right consequence? Or maybe there's it's a little bit different. I'm a little bit confused here. She has never seen the Lord, but she has felt this prema, and then she saw him, and she felt this sweetness, manhurya, and happiness as a consequence. She was already loving Krishna. Rukmini, she already had this love for Krishna. When you have love, all the rest of the things awaken. Rasa without love is impossible. First goes the love, and all this admiration, amazement, all these phenomena come out of love. So Prabhupada gives us an example of a child that is not yours, and when he starts walking for the first time, it does not admire so much because this is not your native son or daughter. So love awakens this rasa of amazement. Like, oh look, he's walking, everyone comes here, come here. Look at him. We don't know where he's going, but we admire. This is love. Also, when spouses have some quarrels, no one is even paying attention. You know, this is just the rasa, this is love. So they're just, trying to figure out their relationships. So love might be also the source of anger and admiration and a whole bunch of different things. So this is rasa. Until you understand this rasa, this love to God, he sees everything in the rasa of lust. So this rasa comes of lust. It's called rasa bhasa, the perverted rasa of enjoyment. So specifically out of love to God, this madhurya comes out. And the desire to switch roles. So this is a love, this prema. So once I've asked some Vrijabhasi in Vrindavana, so they were worshipping some image. There was a very interesting place. So right next to a Russian house where they used to feed some birds, some parrots. Every time at 2 o'clock p.m., all the parrots of Vrindavana, they would just go down there. And so they were just worshipping some image where Radha and Krishna are dressed up in a way that no one could realize who they were. So Radharani is talking about Radharani on this picture, saying that, she's my friend and Krishna is protecting her. But you see, they know everything. Why are they hiding themselves in such a way? They're supposed to know these things because they know everything. So he said to me very easily, of course they know everything, it's just because they love each other and they have these games. So sometimes even if you know something, it's just a game. Although Krishna is all-pervading, he knows everything, but there are some, paradoxes in this rasa. That's how love manifests itself. So I've just recalled something about Rukmini Devi, listening about Krishna from different pilgrims and Brahmins. They used to tell her about the beauty of Krishna. So by just listening to them, she fell in love with him. And we've recently read something in Caitanya-caritamrta that one of Krishna's names is Śrī. So it means that you can actually see him by just listening the stories about him. So this is our chance. Just by listening to Śrīmad Bhagavatam from the right source, we have a chance. Specific senses. So Shruta means ears in Sanskrit. To hear, or ears. As far as I understand, Rukmini first touched upon the Madhurya, the beauty of Krishna, the sweetness of Krishna, so she fell in love with him. So Madhurya, Prema and Ananda, is that the... No, not really.
Madhurya не может быть без Ананды.
Madhurya cannot exist without
Мы должны
Prema.
это услышать от того, у кого есть према, обязательно.
So we have to
Займы прему.
hear it from someone already
Мы ничего не
that
поймем.
already has Prema. There can be no Madhurya without Prema.
Просто как человек.
You will not even understand what person they're talking about.
Мы должны услышать от того, кто имеет прему.
So we have to hear it from someone that already has this Prema, and that's how you can feel Madhurya, only after that. So Prema,
Премананда, да.
Madhurya and then Ananda. Premananda, that's right.
Договор Премананда.
Кстати, вот рядом сидит с Абирамом Прабhu, его зовут Премананда.
So Abhirana Prabhu is sitting here, his name is Premananda. So let him speak now. It's interesting, these three reasons that are given in this order. Feel Prema, then Madhurya, his sweetness, and then Premananda.
Гиридхари Прабhu.
Giridhari Prabhu.
Сегодня последний вопрос.
So I think that's the last question for today. Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances. This is probably not a question, but just a confirmation. So we have these three reasons of Lord Chaitanya's appearance. So the first reason is to feel what it's like to be Radharani. Just to feel these relationships, the ocean of these relationships. Radharani is the object, Krishna is the subject. So Krishna wanted to take a position of an object, Radharani's position. That's the first reason. The second internal reason is that Krishna just wanted to feel the sweetness. The internal reason, he wanted to feel the bliss that Radharani was feeling.
Дать живым существам вместе со святым именем Vraja Premu.
So then we're also talking about the Vraja Prema. It's just recently I was listening to one of the lectures of Bhaktivedanta Maharaj. So he was talking about 10 reasons. So don't remember all these reasons. For now, but thank you anyway. Hare Krishna.
Хотя я сказал, что Гиридхари это последний вопрос.
Although I have said that this was the last question for today,
Может быть, дадим, поскольку
so Nitai Mangala Prabhu,
часто задает вопросы в текстовом формате. Вот сегодня
he's texting a lot, but today, see, he's manifested himself. So Nitai Mangala is raising.
появился
You
сегодня.
wanna say?
До этого он как бы вот текстовое сообщение задавал вопросы.
So he used to just text before this,
А вот сегодня
incognito, but today he has manifested himself. Of course, give him the word. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, dear Guru Maharaj. So I was trying to enter Zoom, and it has worked out. So how do we help people feel this beauty? How is it all connected?
Переживать красоту и добродетель. Правильно.
How is this sensing of beauty and understanding the beauty, how they connect it, and how do we teach people to feel it.
Сложный вопрос. Требует
Well, it's a
квалификации, то, о чем ты спрашиваешь.
challenging question.
Квалификации.
It demands qualification.
Человек, обычный человек,
Any
увидит
ordinary
такую
person, if he
красоту,
sees some
могущественную
beauty,
красоту,
some potent beauty,
он сразу зажигается вожделением,
he
желанием обладать этой
ignites some lust in himself.
любой демон.
He wants to possess this beauty, just like any demon.
Услышала о
So
Сите,
Ravana
всё,
has seen Sita, even having heard of
взял
her,
всех жен
he
полуоргов,
decided to steal her. He used to
всё,
steal all the
красивое
demigods'
собирал
wives.
на ланку.
He used to take away all the beautiful things and
Корабль Пушпак
take them to
забрал у Куверы.
Lanka. He took away the Kuver's
И
ship
так далее, и так далее. Он
and so on and so on.
самое красивое сразу
So
же
he
мог
would just
первые чувства контролировать.
steal the things. He couldn't control his feelings because this beauty, it has ignited lust in him.
При этом нужно оставаться в добродетели, нужно
But-
осознавать, что
But we still have to stay
красота — это бескорыстная красота.
pious. The real beauty is the
Требует высокой
pious beauty.
квалификации, то, о чем ты говоришь.
So it demands a high qualification, the thing that you're
Кришна
talking
и
about.
Радхарани мы говорим, не один Кришна. То возникает, может быть, желание присвоить себе Кришну или Радхарани отдельно. Это оскорбление будет.
Just if you think of possessing Krishna or Radharani separately, it's going to be an offense. We have to try to serve to both of them. So we are serving to these love, to these relationships. We're not trying to separate them. This would be stealing in the material world. If we envy something, we take it away. But the true beauty calls up to serving. So we have to get this beauty from a pure devotee, not possessing everything. The one that will give you this servitude, pious servitude, is love to beauty. Love to beauty is actually serving it, but not possessing it. So once there was an incident in adulthood that has left an eternal samskara. So I saw some tadpoles in a puddle. So the first time in my life, I didn't know that it was like a future toad, future frog. I thought that there was some fish. So I wanted to take one of them back home, just to feed it. I was so naive. So I took it out of a puddle. So I closed it. I closed this jar. So I thought that I would just have it at home and I would be feeding it. Came back home, opened up my palm. This tadpole was dead. Since then, I've had less desire to possess anything. So we need to treat beauty with care. We have to understand its nature and serve it.
Возможно, я продолжу вашу мысль. Мне показалось очень интересно. Хочу поделиться размышлениями насчет красоты и добродетели.
So I could share this.
Как мне показалось,
If I can, I wanted to add something else.
добродетель и есть красота.
So virtue is beauty,
А
as it seems to me.
мать выполняет
When a mother
свои обязанности по отношению к своим
performs her duties,
или муж, отец,
for her children, husband,
когда они в соответствии с своей природой
so when
выполняют свои обязанности,
every one of us perform our duties
это и есть красота.
in the virtue, that's the beauty.
Как Шрила Прабхупада говорит,
Just like Śrī Prabhupada says,
женщины в ее целомудрии, добродетели.
a woman's beauty is in her pureness.
Или красота
That's her internal beauty,
соответствует также красота Господина в том, что
in her chastity. And the servant, when he's ready for everything for his Lord, that's a beauty as well.
Ты говоришь, да, о настоящей внутренней красоте,
Yeah, that's
которая
the real
может
internal beauty
украсить всё, что угодно.
that can decorate everything in this world.
Да, то есть человек непривлекательный может стать очень привлекательным, если пробуждается
Not attractive person can become very attractive if he awakens this
корыстие, его
internal feeling,
становится красивым.
his servitude. It helps him to become more attractive, more beautiful in the eyes of the people.
Следующая часть была вопроса, как же нам донести эту красоту?
So how do we
Как раз, наверное, своим примером.
give this beauty, the feeling of this beauty to people? So probably by just our example of the virtue in the Krishna consciousness.
Хорошо, мы
Мой отец написал песню, последнее, что хотел сказать. Мой отец
So my father
замечательную песню,
has written
называется
down a song, lyrics to a song,
«Самый
called
красивый».
Who is the most beautiful one?
Сейчас буквально на русский перевожу. Кто же красивее всех на свете?
Who's the most beautiful
И там
out there in the world?
в песне
So he's
написано сам,
describing in his song
описывает разных добродетелей.
different virtues,
Юность, юношеской красоты.
starting
В конце концов завершает, по-моему, где-то 8 куплетов
with the beauty of a young person,
красотой матери.
and then he finishes with the beauty of a mother.
Материнскую любовь, красоту матери.
So he glorifies the beauty of a mother
Служение.
for her selfishness and so on.
Nityānanda prabhu, вы получили ответ?
Nityānanda prabhu, have you received the answer to your question?
Да, я гораздо больше получил.
Even more.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you so much.
На этом мы
Okay, so I think we have to finish.
Я знаю, что он отличается своей простотой и поднимает руку очень нагло. Давайте.
Харе Кришна, у меня такой простой вопрос, не философский.
So I have a very simple
Я слышал,
question.
Шри Кришна прабhu, что вот ваш отец также написал какую-то песню, которая
I've heard that
называют. Правда или нет?
Да, да. Народ
your father has written down another song that's almost like a hymn. What is this song? I've never heard of it.
песня о любви, на самом деле.
This is the song about love.
Любви, кстати, целомудренной женщины, ждущей своего мужа,
So about
когда он вернется. И он
it's a love
обращается
about a
к волнам
virtuous
океана, поет эту
woman
песню.
waiting for her beloved one to come back.
Я как-нибудь переведу на русский язык, сделаю достоянием.
So I think I will translate it into Russian and
вот на следующий
I will show it to you.
начнем с этой песни, Прабхупада.
So next class of Srimad Bhagavatam will start with this song, Bhajana Prabhu. Okay.
У нас же тема Caitanya-caritamrta, это раса, према, как раз подходит.
So you see we have this topic of rasa prema, so it suits
Материальной
our demand. This is like a
тоже пишут
reflection of the material world. So what else are we supposed to write about?
отношения.
The whole taste in these relationships.
Начнем следующий Caitanya-caritamrta класс вот с этой песней.
So we start Caitanya-caritamrta
Тему.
class, next class with this song and develop this topic even further.
Спасибо всем большое, преданные.
So thank you all devotees very much. Hari Bol.